Hello, everybody. Welcome to IGN Live 2026. Guys, Control was released in 2019, and it was awarded IGN's Game of the Year. Now, the team at Remedy is hard at work with its direct sequel, Control Resonant. Remedy games have always been a showcase of the latest and greatest in visual technology and performance. So, here to tell us more about what's next, not only for the game, but for the industry as a whole. Please give me a big round of applause and welcome Jacob Freeman, our favorite Nvidia GeForce evangelist, Pawel Kozlowski, manager and distinguished engineer, and Elmeri Raitainen, art director on Control Resonant. Guys, welcome. Thank you all for being here at IGN Live. How are you guys feeling?
Great.
Yeah? Well, we're so excited to have you guys. Now, can you give us a brief overview of what fans might expect in Control Resonant?
A powerful game.
Oh, a very powerful game. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Well, Control Resonant is an action RPG set in the world of Control, and it's developed by us at Remedy using our own Northlight engine. So we're pretty much picking up the story where we left off in 2019, but also it's designed as a standalone experience, so it is possible to enjoy it without playing the first one.
Amazing. Now, Control Resonant features a different visual style from the original Control, including a lot bigger outdoor environments. Can you tell us about how Control Resonant has a unique visual direction?
Yes. I think I've been describing it that what we did with like a grounded normal office space in Control, we are now planning to do for Manhattan in Control Resonant. So when we step out of the oldest house, there's Manhattan there that has been the central key location for many games and movies already. So we immediately knew that this is something that we need to do really well and make it unique and ownable. There's other projects who have done it really well, this sort of a more Google Maps version of it. So we knew that this is not going to be a fight that we want to pick one-to-one, but we need to stay unique and ownable and instantly recognizable. So if somebody takes a screenshot of Control Resonant, they will immediately, and shows it to somebody, they will immediately notice that, hey, that's from the Control game. So that's what we're aiming for.
Now, one thing that I couldn't help but see is there's all types of different enemies. It's very unique to this world. Can you give us a little bit of a context about how you go about designing stuff for this game?
Yeah, from the very get-go in the high concepting stage, I've been also saying that we're standing on the shoulders of an aesthetic giant. So original Control won some awards for world building and art direction as well. So we have been thinking about it very hard, that what is something that we can still keep as is, and then what is something that we can keep, but we need to evolve a bit, and what is something that we need to drop, even if we like it, it doesn't make any sense for this game anymore. The His enemies, for example, being a good concrete example where in Control, the lineup was going from fairly vanilla, corrupted His guard into something that's quite His corrupted already, like the His distorted monster. So now we are definitely picking it up from the crazy end and really gunning it from there.
I love it. Now, this environment is absolutely huge, and obviously with big environments come big obstacles. Can you walk us through some of the obstacles you've run into during development and sort of the technological changes that you've seen over the time that you've been working on Control Resonant?
Yeah, well, this is a really natural progression going from Control to Alan Wake 2, which was a lot more terrain heavy and had a lot of foliage. And now this is twice bigger than that, and it's built from like modular city blocks like this. So we just had to make sure that Northlight now supports this kind of world building well.
Amazing. On the Nvidia side, guys, how's it like working with Remedy, and how does Nvidia work with developers like them to integrate tech like path tracing?
Nvidia always looks for partners to differentiate that are willing to or happy to differentiate the game and content on PC. And so when we find partners like this, we have this group of graphics engineers and production team that then we essentially become embedded for like months, sometimes even year plus. And we work together, we sync quickly, we integrate our changes into their engine, and it's kind of like very close collaboration very often.
Amazing. Now, Control Resonant does feature a full range of NVIDIA features. It's got DLSS 4.5, Ray Reconstruction, path tracing. So much is jam-packed into this game. Can you talk about why and how path tracing enables artists to reach their vision?
Well, path tracing is going to give you the most realistic lighting. The reflections are going to look as real as possible. And as an art director, that's as closest to their artistic vision is of the utmost importance. And with path tracing, it really helps them achieve that.
All right. And as you go, in graphical presets higher and higher in quality, it allows now in Control the developer not to bake direct lighting, which basically can become all dynamic, and shadow maps can be skipped almost completely as well. So ray tracing becomes this core that allows for much more dynamic and accurate lighting across the board in Control.
Yeah, one thing that we have always wanted to do is when we build these worlds and these levels, having a grounded and mundane baseline, something that's believable and feels familiar, and then we start to overlay all kinds of paranatural crap on top of that. But if we don't have that baseline, nothing feels weird. If everything is already weird and you put more weird on it, then it's this weird on weird crime where nothing really stands out. So techniques like this, like path tracing, help us get to that believable grounded baseline. So it's actually then even helping us with the supernatural stuff.
Amazing. Now, Ray Reconstruction was recently upgraded to the 2nd generation. Can you talk about some of the improvements that this provides to path trace titles?
Sure. So I'll start with a brief overview of Ray Reconstruction. We introduced it with DLSS 3.5 a couple of years ago. And what that does is replaces the denoiser that is typically found in ray trace titles with a more optimized version. And that one gives much better lighting response, much better reflection quality, less noise in the reflection. So that was introduced in DLSS 3.5. In DLSS, most recently, in DLSS 4.5, we introduced a new transformer model that uses more compute to better reconstruct the image and gives a better anti-aliasing, reduced ghosting, things like that, on super resolution. It did not work with Ray Reconstruction. That was at CES this year, or January. At just this week, we announced that DLSS 4.5 will be getting Ray Reconstruction. So you'll get all of those benefits. You'll get improved lighting responses. You'll get reduced ghosting. You'll see better reflections. So that's all going to happen with DLSS 4.5, so it's better.
Amazing.
It looks much better.
You can just see it from this footage right here.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference, and it's going to be coming to Control Resonant.
Now, Elmeri, Control Resonant uses the Northlight engine, which is Remedy's in-house engine. Can you describe any updates that were made for Control Resonant?
Well, I guess it's quite obvious that when we spend the first game indoors and are basically going from room to room, now we are really whizzing by city blocks to city blocks. So this is something that we really had to make sure that Northlight supports really well. And one of the biggest change and update that we got in Northlight now was that we are working on top of a completely new world editor, so how the levels are getting built. So it's running on USD, enables blood bearer simultaneous editing, for example, and what is the most important thing for artists and designers in here is that basically everything live edits, and when everything live edits, you get more iteration loops, and everybody knows that more iteration loops is a better game immediately.
Now, this is a follow-up from my side. As art director, have there been any moments where you've been like, wow, we're doing something really crazy with Northlight that we would not have been able to do before? Like, any moments like that during the development of Resonant?
Yeah, I think, and just the fact that the guys are right there with us. It's very responsive. It's like a boutique engine, and if we're running into something, the guys are going to be there to help us out. And for example, these things called gravity anomalies in the game, you gain this traversal ability called shift, so you can then walk on all kinds of surfaces in all kinds of orientations. And that's a very important feature in the game. It's not just a gimmick or a wall run thing, but actually all of the players' player verbs, and not just player, but all of the enemies' verbs as well are working on all orientations and everything live edits. And it's been super tricky to work with those because they're at the core of the experience, but still, when we get those right, those are amazing. And Northlight has been really good at that.
Yeah, I'm sure that's going to be super trippy to experience in person, so I'm super excited to try it out. RTX Mega Geometry, it's new tech that was used in Alan Wake 2. Can you confirm if it's being used in Control Resonant, and if so, how?
Well, I can confirm that it's being used, and I know that it makes ray tracing faster, but I'm an artist, so that's all I know about the subject, really.
So it was very important for Alan Wake 2, and especially this enormous forest they had to just handle this amount of geometry in acceleration structures for ray tracing. Now in Control, geometric complexity is not that massive. However, Mega Geometry, being this kind of robust technology, still allows them to get CPU performance savings for scheduling, acceleration structure builds, and overall lower VRAM usage, which is, as we all know, we like less VRAM when it's possible.
Yeah, I like to keep my computer temperatures low if possible.
Yeah, so it's more performant, right? So not only will you get more performance with ray traced geometry, but also it'll allow the artist to achieve higher visual fidelity with Mega Geometry.
So speaking about rendering and keeping hues low, DLSS super resolution enables the game to render at a lower resolution while still enabling high quality visuals, right? Why is this important for games, for developers, for the gaming experience in general?
So when you look at the performance of the game, of a frame of the game, these days it's essentially linearly scales, like how much time you have to spend for shading a single pixel. So essentially bringing that rendering resolution smaller kind of gives us more budget per pixel. And then if upscaling technologies are good enough that it becomes somewhat indistinguishable from native, it's like an obvious choice to do. Like, give us less pixels, we can make them prettier, and then you just upscale them.
I love it.
So kind of similar story to like Mega Geometry, right? It's going to be much more performant if you run at a lower base resolution and then use upscaling to hit your target resolution. Not only will it look very similar to like a native implementation, but in many cases can look even better.
Awesome. Frame generation is another technology that uses AI to generate frames, increasing performance in games. How does Nvidia make sure that latency stays low when using this tech?
Well, there's a couple of things. One of them is called Nvidia Reflex. Nvidia Reflex was introduced quite a long time ago, and what that does is optimizes the rendering platform to deliver the frame closer to your input. So when you click the mouse, you see the frame like almost immediately. So that's called Nvidia Reflex. It's supported in tons of games. It's automatically supported in every single frame gen title that has it. So that certainly helps. The other one is actually a more recent feature that we introduced in January, and that's called dynamic multi-frame generation. And what that does is, if you have a monitor with a refresh rate of say 120 hertz, it's always going to select a frame gen multiplier that will allow you to hit 120 hertz. So it's not generating frames that you're not seeing, so it's keeping latency as low as possible. It's kind of like driving an automatic car. It's automatically setting the right settings that will give you the best gameplay experience.
All right. Now, I got to ask, how often do developers come to you guys and they're like, hey, we want to do this thing, but we just don't have the power to do it? And in that case, how do you work with them to give them what they need?
So it's kind of like the other way around, since kind of console performance is the baseline for the industry for most of the game developers. So you have this other happy problem to solve. Like, well, on a PC we have so much more power already. So now the task is how, in the best way possible, we can utilize to differentiate, content of any game for performance or visual quality reasons. So it's a fun problem to have.
Yeah, obviously you guys must have very good relationship with studios as well to make sure that you're getting all the power that they need to do that. Elmeri, apart from unforgettable stories, when I think of the Remedyverse, I always think of cutting-edge visuals, performance. How much do advancements from titles like Alan Wake 2, FBC Firebreak, and other titles sort of inform the tech that you use in games like Control Resonant?
Well, I think there's always some sort of a loose backlog of technology advancement that we want to look into in Northlight, but then it's the creative of the game projects that end up really dictating what support do we need. So basically, yeah, the game project tells what we need, and Northlight always delivers.
Like I said, good problems, right? Now, how does the artistic process work? When you are developing like a level for a game, for example, do you think about the technical limitations first and then work backwards from there? Or do you have those sort of limitations front of mind and then figure out what you can do with the limits that are set for you?
Right. Well, somebody has been asking to describe Northlight somehow. We have been saying that it's not necessarily this sort of a big shed full of tools like some commercial engines are, but it's like a scalpel, and it's really good for making exactly the types of games that we make. So if you wanted to do some other genre with it, you might run into trouble, but it's really great at these sort of things that we do, and flexible. And as I said, the guys are right there to help us.
Amazing. Guys, I have one final question for you. Let's keep it fast, just so that way we're not talking for hours. But what do you guys see as sort of the future of gaming graphics?
Well, we're definitely going to see more neural rendering tech. So like a lot of the stuff that we talked about today, Ray Reconstruction, DLSS, frame generation, that's all neural rendering tech, and it keeps getting better and better. It's going to allow developers to better achieve their artistic vision. You're going to see more realistic lighting, more realistic shadows, better geometry, and yeah, it's going to be awesome.
Pawel?
Yep. So I'm mostly excited about how we're shifting from backlighting to more and more dynamic stuff, and we're like trying to like push the kind of the threshold further and further. So when we get to the point when artists can have just an idea, click play, and see the lighting of the scene instead of adjusting a bunch of parameters of many tricky sometimes techniques to control to hit the proper performance and quality bar. I think that will enable us to like speed up the production process so much better, so much more, to then enable game developers just creating better content overall because they have more time for it.
Yeah, I actually agree with that one. For example, the gameplay speed in Control Resonant is fast. It's faster than in any other Remedy game. So not having to think about what stuff is static and what stuff is dynamic, but having a crisp, nice-looking image and everything just belongs in the scene and moves nicely. That's exciting.
Guys, this was so awesome. Thank you so much again for joining me here at IGN Live. Control Resonant is coming later this year, and I, for one, cannot wait to see more. So super excited to see that. We've got more IGN Live coming up right after this, so don't go anywhere. Well done, guys.